They don't know who you really are. Your strength is real. Listen carefully, because what you're about to hear is not meant for everyone. There's a version of you hidden beneath the noise, beneath the expectations, beneath the labels they placed on you. And the truth is, they never saw you clearly. They saw what they could understand. But what you carry, it's deeper than that. It's something they couldn't define, so they tried to dismiss it. You felt it, haven't you? That quiet knowing that there's more to you than what the world reflects back. And the reason they don't recognize your strength is because it was never designed for their understanding. From the beginning, you felt different, not better than others, but separate, like you were walking through a world that didn't quite match your frequency. Conversations felt shallow, connections felt temporary, and even in a crowded room, you felt alone. But that loneliness wasn't a flaw, it was a signal, a sign that your awareness was expanding beyond what most people are comfortable facing. You started noticing things others ignored, patterns, energy, intentions, truth hidden beneath words. And slowly, you realized something powerful. You weren't lost, you were awakening. There's a reason the term chosen resonates with you. Not because it places you above others, but because it explains the weight you've been carrying. Being chosen doesn't mean life gets easier. It means it gets real. You are pushed into growth when others are allowed to stay comfortable. You are tested when others are resting. You are forced to confront your fears, your doubts, your past, while the world around you pretends those things don't exist. And that pressure, that intensity, that's what's been shaping your strength. Quietly, consistently, without applause. People misunderstood you. They labeled your silence as weakness, your patience as passivity, your distance as coldness, but they never saw what was happening inside. They didn't see the battles you fought in your mind, the nights you questioned everything, the moments you felt like giving up but didn't. They didn't see the discipline it took to keep going when nothing made sense. And that's why they don't recognize your strength, because real strength isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It builds in silence. You started losing people, and at first it hurt deeply. You questioned yourself, wondered if you were the problem, but over time something shifted. You began to understand that not everyone is meant to walk with you at every stage. Some connections exist only to teach you, to trigger growth, to reveal truth. And once their purpose is fulfilled, they fade, not as a punishment, but as alignment. You didn't lose them. You outgrew the version of yourself that needed them. And that's when things became even more confusing. Because as you grew, as you became more aware, more grounded, more real, the world didn't celebrate you. It resisted you. People projected their insecurities onto you. They questioned your intentions. They doubted your path, not because you were wrong, but because your growth challenged their comfort. Your presence forced them to confront parts of themselves they were avoiding. And instead of facing that truth, they tried to silence yours. But here's what you need to understand. Your strength was never meant to be validated by the crowd. It was built in isolation for a reason. Because if your power depended on external approval, it wouldn't last. You were trained to stand alone so you could stand firm. So when opinions shift, when support disappears, when doubt surrounds you, you don't collapse. You stay grounded, you stay focused, you stay true. There were moments you almost gave up, moments where the pressure felt too heavy, where the silence felt too loud, where the path felt too unclear. But even in those moments, something inside you refused to break. You kept going, not because it was easy, but because something deeper was guiding you. That inner voice, that quiet pull, that sense that no matter how hard it gets, you're not meant to quit. That's your strength, not perfection, not constant confidence, but resilience. The ability to keep moving forward even when everything inside you feels uncertain. The courage to continue even when no one understands. The discipline to grow even when it's uncomfortable. That's what separates you. That's what makes your journey different. You've started to see through illusions, the fake smiles, the hidden intentions, the surface-level conversations. And while that awareness can feel isolating, it's also liberating. Because once you see truth, you can't unsee it. And that clarity, it protects you. It guides you. It keeps you from settling for less than what aligns with your purpose. You're not here to fit in. You're here to evolve, to rise beyond the limitations placed on you, to break patterns that were never meant to continue. And that kind of path, it's not easy. It requires strength most people don't develop. It requires awareness most people avoid. And it demands a level of honesty that most people are afraid to face. That's why they don't understand you, because you're operating on a level they haven't reached. And instead of trying to force them to see you, you have to accept something powerful. Not everyone is meant to understand your journey, and that's okay. Your path isn't for them, it's for you. There's a shift happening inside you. You feel it. A sense of clarity, a sense of direction. Even if you can't fully explain it, you know something is changing. You're becoming more aligned, more focused, more aware of what matters and what doesn't. And with that shift comes a new level of strength. You're no longer seeking validation. You're no longer chasing approval. You're no longer shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You're stepping into who you are fully. And that's uncomfortable for people who only knew the older version of you. But that discomfort, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to stay true, to keep growing, to keep evolving even when it's difficult. Because everything you've been through, every challenge, every loss, every moment of doubt, it's all been preparing you, building you, strengthening you. And one day it will all make sense, not in a dramatic, instant way, but in a quiet realization. You'll look back and understand why things happened the way they did, why certain people left, why certain paths closed, why certain struggles felt unbearable, and you'll see it clearly. You weren't being broken. You were being built. So stop questioning your strength. Stop doubting your path. Stop minimizing what you've overcome. Because what you've survived, what you've endured, what you've grown through, it matters. It shaped you into someone who can handle what's ahead. They don't know who you really are, and maybe they never will. But that's not your loss, because the moment you truly understand your own strength, their opinions lose their power. Now it's your turn. Step into it, own it, embrace it. If this message resonated with you, if you felt something shift while listening, don't ignore it. That's your awareness expanding. Like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Return to Awakening, because this journey, it's just getting started. But even now, there are moments when you question everything again. Moments when the old thoughts try to return, telling you that maybe you're overthinking, maybe you're imagining it. Maybe you should just go back to being who you used to be, but deep down you already know you can't, because once awareness expands, it doesn't shrink back. You can pretend for a while, but it will never feel real again. That discomfort you feel when you try to go backwards, that's growth rejecting limitation. There's a silent transformation happening within you, not loud, not visible to everyone, but powerful. Your mindset is changing, your energy is shifting. The way you respond to situations, the way you see people, the way you value your time, it's all evolving. And the strange part is most people won't notice it at first. They'll still treat you like the old version of you. They'll expect the same reactions, the same tolerance, the same access. But what they don't realize is that version of you no longer exists. And that's where the real test begins. Not in becoming aware, but in staying true to that awareness. Because it's easy to fall back into old patterns when you're surrounded by familiar environments. It's easy to shrink yourself just to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to maintain connections. But every time you do that, you feel it, don't you? That inner resistance, that quiet voice reminding you this isn't who you are anymore. You're learning to set boundaries, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. You're learning to walk away, not because you don't care, but because you finally understand your worth. And that shift, it changes everything. Because once you start choosing yourself, everything that was built on you neglecting yourself begins to fall apart. And yes, that can feel like loss, but in reality, it's alignment. There's also a deeper level of awareness you're stepping into. You're starting to recognize the difference between noise and truth, between distraction and purpose, between what feels good in the moment and what actually serves your growth. And this level of clarity, it can feel isolating, because suddenly, things that once excited you no longer do. Conversations that once entertained you now feel empty. And you begin to wonder, where do I belong now? But that question, it's part of the process. Because you're not meant to return to who you were, and you're not fully who you're becoming yet. You're in between. And that space, it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. It's where transformation happens. It's where your identity is reshaped. Not based on external expectations, but on internal truth. And while you're in this space, you'll notice something else. Your tolerance for negativity is decreasing. You can't entertain fake energy anymore. You can't ignore disrespect. You can't pretend everything is fine when it is. And this doesn't make you difficult. It makes you aware. It means you're no longer willing to compromise your peace just to maintain appearances. Some people will call this change arrogance. Others will say you've changed too much. But what they're really saying is, they were comfortable with the version of you that required less from them. The version that didn't challenge them. The version that stayed quiet. And now that you're stepping into your truth, it forces them to see what they've been avoiding within themselves. You're also becoming more protective of your energy. You're starting to realize that not every conversation deserves your attention. Not every situation deserves your reaction. Not every person deserves access to you. And that awareness, it's powerful, because your energy is your foundation. Where you place it determines what grows in your life. There were times you gave too much time, too much effort, too much understanding, even when it wasn't returned. But now you're learning balance. You're learning that giving without boundaries leads to exhaustion, and being there for others shouldn't mean abandoning yourself. That realization alone is a sign of growth most people never reach. You're no longer chasing people. You're no longer forcing connections. You're no longer trying to prove your worth to those who fail to see it. Instead, you're stepping back, observing, allowing people to reveal who they truly are through their actions. And in that space, you gain clarity, real clarity, not based on words but on consistency. There's also a shift in how you handle pain. Before, it used to break you. It used to consume you. But now, even though it still hurts, you process it differently. You reflect. You learn. You grow. You no longer see pain as something that destroys you, but as something that refines you. And that mindset, it changes your entire experience of life. You're beginning to trust yourself more. Your intuition, your instincts. That inner voice you used to doubt, you're starting to listen to it. And the more you listen, the clearer it becomes. It guides you. It warns you. It aligns you. And you start to realize you were never lost. You were just disconnected from your own voice. There's power in that reconnection. Because once you trust yourself, external noise loses its control over you. Opinions become just opinions. Doubt from others becomes irrelevant. And you begin to move with a different kind of confidence. Not loud, not arrogant, but grounded, certain, unshaken. And still, the journey continues. And as the journey continues, you start to notice something even deeper. The things that once triggered you no longer have the same effect. Situations that used to pull you into emotional chaos now feel distant. It's not that you don't feel anymore, it's that you've gained control over what deserves your reaction. That level of emotional discipline, it doesn't come overnight. It's built through experience, through pain, through moments where you had to choose growth over impulse. You're no longer reacting to everything. You're responding with awareness. There's a difference, a powerful one. Reaction is automatic. It's driven by emotion, by past wounds, by ego. But response, that comes from clarity, from understanding, from a place of control. And now you're operating from that space more often than not. That's evolution. That's strength most people never develop. There's also a shift in how you see time. You're not rushing anymore. You're not desperate for immediate results. You're starting to understand that real growth, real alignment, it takes time. And instead of forcing outcomes, you're allowing things to unfold. You're focused on the process, on becoming rather than proving. And that patience, it's changing the way life responds to you. You're becoming more selective, not just with people but with everything. What you consume, what you entertain, what you tolerate. You're realizing that everything you allow into your space influences your state. And because of that awareness, you're choosing differently now. You're protecting your mind, your peace, your focus. And that level of discipline, it separates you. There's a quiet confidence growing within you. It's not loud, it doesn't need attention, it doesn't seek validation, it simply exists. You feel it when you walk into a room, when you speak, when you make decisions. It's a knowing, a certainty, that no matter what happens, you'll handle it, that no matter what comes your way, you won't break. But with that confidence comes another layer of responsibility, because now you see clearly, you understand more, and that awareness, it requires you to live differently. You can't ignore truth anymore. You can't settle for less. You can't go against what you know deep down is right for you. And that level of alignment, it demands courage, every single day. You're also realizing that not everything needs to be explained. Not everyone needs to understand your decisions. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts. There's power in silence, in moving with intention without announcing every step. And that shift, it protects your energy. It keeps your path clear from unnecessary interference. There were times you overshared, times you gave people insight into your plans, your thoughts, your vision, only to be met with doubt or negativity. But now you've learned. You move differently. You build in silence. You grow in private. And when results show, they speak for themselves. You're no longer seeking approval. You're seeking alignment, and that changes everything. Because approval is temporary. It depends on others. It shifts. It disappears. But alignment, that's internal, that's stable, that's real. When you're aligned, you don't need external confirmation. You feel it. You know it. There's also a deeper sense of detachment forming within you. Not in a cold or disconnected way, but in a balanced way. You're no longer holding onto things that are clearly meant to leave. You're no longer forcing outcomes. You're allowing life to flow without trying to control every detail. And in that detachment, you find peace. You're understanding that control was never the goal. Growth was, and growth requires letting go. Letting go of expectations, of outcomes, of people who no longer align. And while that process can feel uncomfortable, it creates space. Space for better, for real, for what actually belongs in your life. Your perspective on challenges is shifting too. You're no longer asking, why is this happening to me? Instead, you're asking, what is this teaching me? And that simple shift, it changes everything. Because now, every obstacle becomes an opportunity. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every struggle becomes part of your evolution. You're starting to see your past differently. Not as something that holds you back, but as something that shaped you. Every mistake, every failure, every moment you thought you wouldn't make it, it all contributed to who you are now. And instead of regretting it, you're learning from it. You're using it. You're growing through it. There's also a stronger connection forming between you and your purpose. Even if you can't fully define it yet, you feel it. That pull, that direction, that sense that you're meant for something more. And instead of ignoring it, you're starting to follow it, step by step, without needing the full picture. And that's where real faith begins. Not in having all the answers, but in trusting the process without them. In moving forward, even when the path isn't fully clear. In believing, not blindly, but through experience. Through everything you've already overcome. Because at this point, you've seen enough to know one thing for certain. You're not the same person you used to be, and you're never going back.